Would you like to share your dream with me?
Yeah. In the dream, I was at school, and when I went inside one of the classrooms, I went on my computer to do some work, and then on the computer, a certain kind of bar popped up, and it said, "You will turn into a robot in a certain amount of time." And when that time passed, I turned into a robot if I was still looking at the screen. And if I did turn into a robot, then it means that the dream would restart. Then it means that the dream would restart. And I did, so the dream did restart. And then I went inside the same class to do work. But then when I saw that bar where it said you will turn into a robot, I closed the computer. But then other people who turned into robots saw me close it, and then they tried to infect me, and then they infected me. So then I turned it into a robot. And then the dream restarted again. But this time, when I went on to the computer, I pretended to look at it, but at the last second I looked away. So I didn't turn into a robot, but I just pretended to act like all the other robots that were outside the classroom. So I walked out, and then I just went to a different classroom, and I saw my sister and brother inside it, and then they started acting like robots too. And I saw other people who were not infected, and they started acting like robots too after seeing what we were doing. And then,
So they were pretending?
yeah, they were pretending to be robots. And then we all went into this room. It had no windows in it, but for some reason, someone who already was infected went inside it and then infected everyone except for me. And then, and when everyone else was infected, and when I was the last survivor, everyone died. Except for my mom and my sister and my brother.
Okay. So, didn't you say that we turned into robots?
Oh yeah, they turned into robots, but in the dream when everyone died, they turned back to normal again.
And didn't you say also that when people turned into robots, their skin turned a certain color?
Yeah, they would turn white with green, or blue and white.
So, what do you mean by white and green or blue and white? Are you saying that they had stripes? Are you saying that it was a blend of both? So it was a light green or a light blue? What do you mean by white and green?
It was like a blend of both.
Oh, okay. So they turned into like a bright blue or a bright greenish color?
Yeah.
Okay. So when they turned into robots, you pretended to be a robot. How were you able to pretend? Did your skin change color too?
No, but I just acted like one. I just acted like one.
Okay. Were there others who were robots but their skin was the same?
No. Everyone who turned into a robot skin, changed.
Okay. Do you think God is saying that in real life, people's skin will change green for reals? Or do you think that was just his way of letting you know that, hey, this person's infected? What do you think? If you don't know, it's okay.
I think it might be his way of saying, hey, this person's infected.
Okay. That's very interesting. So, you pretended to be a robot. You walked out of the room, and everyone in the hall, they were robots.
Yeah.
And you said you noticed that there were some who didn't turn into robots. How did you know? Was it because their skin was a normal color too?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But they were pretending?
Yeah.
Oh, so this is what allowed you to know that they are normal. They're not robots. They are just pretending because their skin didn't change?
Yeah.
Okay. And so you guys all grouped together and you went into a room?
Yeah. But then somehow, some other robot came and infected everyone except me. Like everyone who was inside that room.
And how did they infect them?
I think they just somehow opened the door and then touched everyone.
Oh, okay. They touched them. So their skin was like had something in it to infect people?
I think, yeah, but I think it only had it on their hand.
Okay. So how were you able to escape? Were you hiding and they didn't see you?
I just, I think I was hiding, but I was, at a corner of the room.
Okay.
But when everyone else in that room turned into robots, I just pretended I turned into one too. And then I pushed everyone out, and then I closed the door really quick.
Okay.
So that they won't see me.
And you said that this room had no windows, right?
Yeah.
And you said that there were some tips that you had for yourself in the dream that kept you from being infected. What were those tips?
If there was a window, then it means that if I could see whoever's outside it, then it means that they could see me. And if a robot somehow enters the room, I could have a plan B and then exit out with my escape route.
Okay. So you had the tip of if you were to be in a room with windows, to make sure that if you can see outside, that no one. Well, let me back up. Your tip was that if there was a room with windows, and if you were able to see the robots walking outside, not to hide there because that means they can see you when they look inside. And if you were in a room with no windows, you always had a plan B, another way of escape, just in case they entered the room. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And so then you mentioned in your dream that at some point, everyone who turned into robots, except for me and your brother and your sister. But that's very interesting. Were there any other survivors?
No.
Okay. Do you think it's because you only saw the people who were immediately around you compared to seeing the whole world or the whole state or the whole city?
I think so.
Okay. Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to add to the dream?
No.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing. Goodbye.
And a couple nights later, October 13th, I had another dream. I was working for one of my nanny clients, both of which were jabbed. I went to the bathroom and saw my eyes were different. One of my eyes was all gray and had little lines on it that looked like a loading computer. And there was some sort of connection between the eyes and the technology. Like from your phone, you could change the eye color. I watched as my eye changed from gray to blue. And I kept feeling like God was showing me something, especially for like the person that I was working for. Like a lot of my clients aren't jabbed. So it was just very interesting that I was at that house. But I keep feeling like he's showing me that there's going to be some kind of turning event for the people that have had jabs, and something that's connected with technology. I then began to panic for my munchkins that I nanny for. And I had the intuition that the jabbed parents were about to turn into these zombie-like creatures. And I quickly grabbed my keys to go save them. So I thought it was very interesting that the zombie-like creatures had a skeleton skull head, because the rest of them just looked pretty normal. But I felt like that might have been symbolic for these people had completely lost any sense of consciousness or their minds, like who they were as people was completely dead. They had been completely hijacked, whether it be through technology or demonic possession or whatever this is that's happening. These are kind of the connections that I've been making. So I just wanted to kind of share that as well.
I guess the right word I had suspicions that they're introducing something into the vaccines that are designed to cause a detrimental effect at a time when they want the detrimental effect to take place. It's there, you don't know it's there, there's no effect from it, but then it can be called upon or triggered based upon any type of signal or chemical or maybe two inert, relatively innocuous ingredients, but when they come together, they cause something to happen, and that would be the trigger, if you will, that would cause the sleeper cells within your body to awaken.
This from a few people about the length of this test. Why is the signal planned to continue for a full 2 hours? As usual, emergency broadcast system tests usually last less than a minute. Could it be so that Americans are fully exposed to whatever's going on while citizens go about their daily routine in the middle of the week during the middle of the workday? And why during the middle of the workday? All the while unsuspecting and being exposed for 2 hours. And not only by 5G, but additionally frequencies that target computers, televisions, and radio. Where are the whistleblowers who have additional knowledge coming forth in warning? And they say, for both these reasons, the FEMA test on October 4th is not an innocent and routine measure and likely is something far worse. And instead of me paraphrasing, let's just watch the guy's video.
So everybody's talking about October 4th, National Turn Off Your Phone Day, which I don't think would be a bad idea. But, there's a lot of speculation of what might happen on October 4th. Well, there's this really cool invention that got invented a couple years ago. It's called Teslaphoresis. Let me show you a video of it.
What we've designed, and we've done this very, very quietly, but we're glad to now release it to the world, is this idea of Teslaphoresis, which is a discovery we made several years ago, and we've been developing it. Teslaphoresis is, the simplest way to understand it, is self-assembly at a distance, just long-distance assembly of materials. And what we did was, because we're at Rice, we had plenty of nanotubes around, so we decided to use nanotubes. And what we discovered was that these nanotubes can actually string together and form wires by themselves under this electric field.
So you take carbon nanotubes and you apply electricity to them, or a radio frequency of some sort of frequency of some sort. I'm not really sure, but they said Tesla coil, so obviously this is going to be electricity. And when it hit, it causes these things to self-assemble and make circuitry and wires and things like that, and who knows what else. It's an interesting little invention they made. And that was back in 2016, so who knows how far they've progressed since then. But yeah, I just wanted to share that really cool invention with you guys.
Another dream showed me that the desire of zombies is not, like they show on TV, to eat brains, but it is to, quote, spread what they have. What exactly they have, I suspect is maybe, I don't know what it is, but that's what I was told, that they want to spread what they have. So they want others to become like them. So the goal is not to eat brains, the goal is to create more zombies. And then the same dream also showed me that God is going to allow these things to happen, okay? And it also showed me that these things have been carefully planned and developed and funded over many years. They have all kinds of plans and programs developed. And again, these zombies, they can open doors, they can use weapons, they have a mentality. The only thing I see, though, is that they seem to be, in some instances, a little bit slower. Maybe it's because they're attached to this hive mind and there's like somehow a lag time, I don't know. But they move a little bit slower than people, and you can pick them out of a crowd because they move slower. And by the same token, they can identify someone who's not in the hive mind because they move too fast. So it's one of the things that you have to do if you don't have the hive mind tech, if you're walking in a public place, is to move as slowly as they do in normal operations. Somehow, it can spread by skin contact. So they desire to go to places where people are wearing fewer clothes, a sauna, a beach, a public pool, things like this. Okay, number 22, a dream shows that the full implementation of the system will require 3 generations. And the dream explained this doesn't mean 3 40-year biblical generations, but it means instead like a grandmother, a daughter, and a granddaughter. And that was the example it gave, 3 women.
This person submits that 5G has long been a military weapon, and its recent rapid, unexplained deployment across the nation, close to schools, and at the same time as the other thing that we had to deal with in the last few years, and largely unknown to Americans. Another thing they point out, same scenario happened over in China when the whole 5G thing rolled out over there, and reportedly a bunch of people start dropping like flies.
There's going to be a payload with some type of pathogen that will be activated by a sequence of 5G bursts, and these will be basically off of 16 to 18 gigahertz frequency, and it will be essentially 3 bursts that will be sequential and last a minute. And those will be designed, those bursts will actually create a signal that will release this payload that is within the hydrogel component of the... What exactly is in there? There's supposed to be 3 pathogens, and these 3 pathogens are, I'm not 100% sure what these pathogens are, but one of them is what they call the Marburg virus, which is essentially a pathogen that mimics the hemorrhagic fever, that creates the hemorrhagic fever component. It's similar to that. And according to, if you look that up, it says that there's a 22% to up to a 90% mortality, and Google says it's an 88% mortality, meaning that out of every 100 people that get it, 88% or 88 out of 100 will die. Now, that's designed to justify, once that release has taken place, once that signal from the 5G towers signals this release. Let me take that back. It's a sequence of 3 bursts that lasts a minute long, and it's using the 18 gigahertz frequency, or maybe it's the 16 gigahertz frequency. I don't know specifically yet which one, but it's between 16 and 18. It will cause the hydrogel to release this payload of a virus or viral load, and they are supposed to be 3 different types. I don't know all the 3 different types as I mentioned, but Marburg is supposed to be one of those. When that happens, then everybody that's had the virus will have this Marburg virus released. And again, we know that 22 to up to 90% mortality rate, but that's when somebody encounters it, in a natural way, if you will. When it's inside your body, already introduced and now released within your body, it's probably going to be 100% mortality rate, meaning that everybody that has it, it's going to be triggered and it's going to be released. And when that happens, yes, obviously these people are going to die. So we're talking, not hundreds of thousands. We're talking about millions and millions of people Worldwide, they're going to have this effect.
However, at some point, this blonde woman is captured, and our other people, they go and they see her, that she's been captured, and they put something into her the way that you fully expect that they would do it. And then she gets onto her knees and she's weeping and crying and moaning, just the most pitiful, horror-filled weeping and crying. And she's watching her right hand, and it transforms into this like blue scales. And I made a cartoon here. I'm not the greatest cartoonist, but you can see how it's kind of represented. And she just watches that happen. And then later, also her whole head transforms. So it's the same process. First hand, and then later the body begins to transform as well.
And I knew I wasn't supposed to touch this fruit, so I ain't touching it. Next thing you know, I see people come out of their house, they grabbing this fruit, bro, and they just eating it, bro. Next thing you know, I wake up the next morning, bro. This is all in a dream. Like, I'm waking up the next morning, bro. I go outside. People sick, bro. Like, they got spikes coming out. It's like blue spikes coming out their head. Some of their parts are blue. Some of they, like, it's different parts. Like, one may have a leg that turn blue, arm that turn blue, half of their face turn blue, parts of their head, bro. Some of them had spikes coming out their neck, their chest, bro. It was blue. And when I was walking through the city, bro, they had military tanks everywhere. Like, you couldn't go down the street without seeing a military vehicle, like some type of military personnel, bro. And people was even in the stores, bro, like, it was hard for people to buy food, bro. The lines were so long, bro. Like, and if you was sick, it's gonna take you even longer to get you food, and they definitely wasn't gonna hand it to you, bro. He was telling me, like, it's gonna be a disease out here that's gonna be dang near like a zombie effect, bro. Like, and that's why the Lord tell us that He want us to get guns. He want us to set stuff in place. I mean, when I woke up, bro, He gave me the interpretation of the dream, telling me how it's gonna come with a disease. It's gonna be a curfew. You ain't gonna be able to go outside for some months, you know. You're gonna have to survive. So that's why He tell us to grow stuff like fruits and vegetables.
Data, report.
We appear to be caught in a temporal wake.
Captain, Earth.
The atmosphere contains high concentrations of methane, carbon monoxide, and fluorine.
Life signs?
Population approximately 9 billion. All Borg.
How?
We are probably one of the last generations of Homo sapiens, because in the coming generations, we will learn how to engineer bodies and brains and minds. Now, how exactly will the future masters of the planet look like? This will be decided by the people who own the data. Now, why is data so important? It's important because we've reached the point when we can hack not just computers, we can hack human beings and other organisms. Now, what do you need in order to hack a human being? You need two things. you need a lot of computing power, and you need a lot of data, especially biometric data. This is the end of human history, the end of human-dominated history. History will continue with somebody else in control.
Can you show the second sign you are trying to demonstrate?
Il était tout petit, à l'école primaire.
Ah! Second sign!
Secondaire jusqu'à ce qu'il ait été ici, ici.
What does it imply?
It implies Damien's mark.
La marca de Damian.
Does it mean some human being possess these signs and these marks you're talking about?
No, they don't just possess the sign. They feel it's just like a freestyle sign that you do in music.
Okay.
But it simply says, Damien, I am your vessel to possess. I am your soul to claim.
Okay. Okay. Once again, you say you people are three that are dwelling in this body.
Yes.
The one that the world was waiting for is officially here. And yes, we are talking about the so-called Antichrist, Jared Kushner, the one man that the entire world is looking forward to. Now, obviously, before we call anybody the AC word, we need to be very careful about who it is by simply just calling someone as the word AC. Because it is, of course, a very huge word. Anyone being called as the Antichrist is the last thing you ever want to see. But every single thing that we've known so far regarding this man, Jared Kushner, is now 99.9%, leading to a very solid evidence that he actually might turn out to be the so-called Antichrist. Now let's start off with where the entire hunchback began. Because recently, as we saw, Trump just held this event called the Board of Peace, where all the different world leaders were taking part in this Board of Peace event. The next day, when the event was taking place, it turns out that Trump decides to make Jared Kushner the leader of the so-called Board of Peace Treaty, which means that from now on, Jared Kushner is going to be the leader of the Board of Peace. So any sort of decisions that's going to take place in terms of the peace board is now going to go through Jared Kushner, and he is going to be the one guy that's going to be approving and making plans in the name of so-called peace.
What the Board of Peace will have the ability to do if we're successful with Gaza is really show how do you do peace implementation, which is something that when we got this deal done, we didn't really find too much expertise or know-how on how to do it. So as we're creating this system, hopefully it's something that we can just document these learnings and make them available to all else who want to use them in the future.
And when I realized that Jared Kushner was actually behind the plan of creating this whole peace treaty, and now he's also become the leader of the Board of Peace, which Trump has now started. So this basically means that Jared has now officially entered the peace treaty with Israel. So I decided to go ahead and dig a little deeper into the background of what Jared Kushner actually is. And some of the things that I found was absolutely mind-boggling. Because I went all the way back in the first term of Trump's presidency, and I just discovered that Jared Kushner was the guy who initiated the peace treaty between Israel and Gaza. And also, Jared Kushner is the one that set up the United States Embassy inside of Jerusalem.
I am so proud to be here today in Jerusalem. While presidents before him have backed down from their pledge to move the American Embassy once in office, this president delivered. Because when President Trump makes a promise, he keeps it.
And also, Jared Kushner is the one that made a major deal between Israel and the Middle East with absolutely having no position whatsoever in the White House or in the government. And it turns out that Jared Kushner already had massive plans of vacating entire Gaza and turning that into a smart city. So now I can basically connect all the dots. The fact that Jared already knew Prime Minister Netanyahu ever since he was a little kid. And now Jared has one of the highest positions out there in the United States government, where he is now going to be handling the entire peace treaty, which is something that we should be very cautious about, especially after the warnings that we've already known from the Daniel's prophecy. Because recently Kushner acquired one of the largest real estates in the United States history, which is this massive Avenue building, which cost him $1.8 billion, where Kushner ended up purchasing the 666 Avenue building for a price of $1.8 billion. Now, the fact that he actually purchased this building named the 666 Avenue makes a lot of sense with the things that he's already been doing. It's going to go by the number named 666. And how big of a coincidence could this be with the fact that he just purchased the 666 Avenue building for about $1.8 billion? Now, if you dig a little bit deeper, you'll also find out that the amount of money that he used in order to purchase this building also makes a lot of sense. Because if you add up $600 million 3 times, leading to 600 million once, 600 million twice, and 600 million thrice, will exactly give you $1.8 billion. And right here you can see there is once again the number 666 being repeated, even with the exact amount of money that he used in order to purchase this building. And also you can go down to Google and type Jared Kushner's name in Hebrew numbers. You'll actually find out something that's very mind-blowing. That based on the standard Hebrew gematria, which is the numerical value of Hebrew letters, the surname Kushner adds up to so-called the number 666. And there's one thing that we need to understand, that if you read the book of Revelation, then the book of Revelation also states that it's not just one person that's going to be operating this whole end times prophecy. It's not just the Antichrist that's going to be the main figure of the entire plot story.
In order for you to know what the mark of the beast is, you'd have to first identify the beast. Now, according to scripture, there's a beast that is the governments of the world, or the systems of men. And a lot of folks do not realize that one of the interpretations of the mark of the beast is people basically choosing the ways and the systems of men rather than the way of Yah and following the Lord by faith. So the beast is clearly the world governments and their systems, these man-made systems. However, scripture speaks about a beast that will be a singular man, a beast in person. And in order to know what the mark of the beast is, you have to know who this beast in person is and who this man is, because the mark will come from him. Yes, beloveds, it will be his mark. Hence why the scripture calls it the mark of the beast. But also, the scripture goes on to tell us that the mark will be his name, or the number of his name. So, beloveds, just so you understand what I'm saying, the mark of the beast will be the name of a particular man, or the number of the name of this particular man. And I've already explained to you guys in my previous video that this man will be none other than Barack Hussein Obama, because his full name contains 18 letters, and the number 18 is divisible by 6, which is 6 plus 6 plus 6, which is also his mark, the number of the beast, and the number of his name.
Recently groundbreaking technology from Elon Musk. His controversial biotech company Neuralink has received the go-ahead from an independent review board to begin human trials for its brain implants.
Meanwhile, Elon Musk's controversial Neuralink is ready to test its brain chip implants on humans. Now, the tech billionaire Musk announced Neuralink has received approval from an independent review board to begin recruitment.
Elon Musk ने ऑफिशियली मार्क ऑफ द बीस्ट लॉन्च कर दिया है, जिसकी बाइबल में पहले से ही भविष्यवाणी की गई है। बाइबल में लिखा है कि एक दिन ऐसा आएगा जब उस पशु का चिन्ह मार्क ऑफ द बीस्ट की छाप लोगों पर लगाई जाएगी, और उस छाप का नंबर होगा 666 यानी 666। कि अगर आप गूगल पर जाएं और एक यूनानी ग्रीक न्यूमरोलॉजिकल कैलकुलेटर खोलें और उसमें इंग्लिश का नाम न्यूरालिंक डालें, तो आप देखेंगे कि सबसे पहले ये सारे इंग्लिश लेटर्स को लेगा, फिर उन्हें ग्रीक लेटर्स में बदलेगा और फिर ग्रीक न्यूमरोलॉजी के आधार पर गिन कर ये बताएगा कि इस नंबर का टोटल 666 होता है।
Back on January 11th, I had a dream that showed a bunch of scenes about how people who had received the syringe gravy, that they all became in phases, that they became zombies, and that a war started, and then the zombies became fully manifested. But I had another one on January 30th. I had another dream, and it showed more detail about this transformation. It's with 3 scenes in this dream from last night. And in the first scene, there's a person who just is a normal person, and then suddenly he clenches up, his face starts to deform and distort, and he brings his hands up toward his face, and his fingers are curling and crimping and crunching, and the guy you can see that he's suffering, and he's fighting to regain control of his physical properties, but in the interim, he's also growling, and it sounds like the closest thing is like a mountain lion, like one of the big cats. And he's growling and roaring, and then he regains control of himself. And then the scene switches, and I see the same thing happen to a woman, and then to another guy. And I understand, like, these people are struggling to fight against something. It happens again, and it comes back to maybe it's the first guy again, or maybe it's someone else. But this time, this persona takes over the whole person, and he starts to behave like a very aggressive zombie, right? And then it goes on for some time, then he breaks himself out of it and he gets free. It's like a fit, like an epileptic seizure or something is overcoming these people. They're fighting it, and they're able to maintain some measure of control. But as the scenes go on, these fits last longer and longer and longer until eventually a person gets taken over, and I don't see them recover at any point at all. So this is very different than anything I've seen anybody else report, that it happens in phases and that they can kind of fight against it. And then the narrator comes in and he says, and he explains to me, he says, the mark of the beast, listen to this, the mark of the beast will be presented as the solution to the damage caused by the syringe gravy. I think you all know what I mean. The transition happens in phases, and that people seem to overcome. Like, it seems like they're able to resist the transformation the way someone might try to resist an epileptic seizure or just tried to resist an outbreak of anger or something, right? You feel it come up, and you're like, nah, I'm not having that today, right? And you let it stay down, right? Or resisting the urge to vomit or something. Like they somehow resist it. I've never heard any of that anywhere else before. The part I have heard before is that the mark of the beast would be presented as something that would cure the vaxequences.